Hi everyone. This time we will learn about how to conduct cable pulling and connection. The training goal is to learn how to fix cables using cable ties, distinguish main circuits, auxiliary circuits, and communication lines when installing cables, and how to wire external cables. Let us have a look at the key points of this task. First, separate HV, LV, and communication cables when pulling cables. Second, cable ties should be used to fully secure cables so that they do not shake. Third, cable ties should be spaced at a constant interval when tied up. Fourth, cables must be connected using the given terminals. Please double-check preparations in detail and tools to be ready for the task. Let us have a look at the precautions to perform the task in this training. First, when pulling cables, separate and tie up HV, LV, and communication cables. For high-voltage cables, separate and tie up the cables for the voltage of above 380 to 400 volts. If the cable is for the voltage of between 380 and 400 volts, separate it from the cables for 220 volts. And if 220 volts is the maximum high-voltage cable, separate the DC 24-volt control line, then tie it up. The KNX communication cables, EIB cable, and Ethernet cables should be separated to prevent noise. All grounding cables should also be tied up separately from other types of cables. When tying up cables on cable trays, use cable ties to fully secure the cables. When pulling cables, make sure that the cables are not twisted. Use the terminals according to the purpose of the use during cable connection. Terminals should not be broken during the connection work. In terms of the exposure of the live part of the cables, copper lines should not be seen from the vertical side of the device. Have a look at what we are going to do in this training. Check the drawings before starting the work to determine the direction and sequence of placement of the cables, going out from the control box and distribution board, and proceed with the cable arrangement. After identifying the types of provided cables, select cables suitable for use and prepare for pulling. The provided cables are generally VCTF cables. The quantity of provided cables may be insufficient, so they should be pulled at the appropriate lengths. Proceed with cable pulling for the control box, distribution board, and connection to devices. Place the main circuit cables according to the direction and connection points on the drawings and cut the cables into appropriate lengths. Place the auxiliary circuit cables to be connected to the devices, such as lamps and boxes, according to the drawings, and cut the cables into the appropriate lengths. After installing the earth bolts to safely pull the grounding cables, cut the cables into the appropriate lengths and place it. Use cable ties to arrange main circuit cables at regular distances. Tie up the cables and cut the remaining parts neatly using a nipper. Use cable ties to tie up the auxiliary circuit cables at regular distances and fix it onto the cable trays. After tying it up, cut the end of the tie neatly so that the end is not pointed. Cable ties should be fixed at regular distances, but if there is no time, they should be fixed at every 2 sections of the cable tray. Cut the communication cables into the appropriate lengths and place them. Separate the communication cables from surrounding cables to prevent noise. Connect cables to the devices according to the drawings. Care must be taken to prevent confusion of inter-device cables. Mark identification on the cables to prevent errors. Fix the cables to be connected to the device. Clean up the remaining residues, foreign substances, etc. after working on cables, cable ties, etc. Connect the cables of the main circuit and auxiliary circuit to each device of the distribution board properly. Connect the cables to each device of the control box. Use the cable stripper to peel off the cable sheath, then insert a terminal and proceed with the connection.
단자를 끼우고 결선을 진행합니다.
The cables that had been connected should be tied up with cable ties to be arranged and fix the box. Conduct the cable connection to the remaining boxes in the same way.
진행합니다.
Clean up the remaining residues, foreign substances, etc. around after the work. Check the drawings, name each device on the labels, and attach them to the devices.
기구에 부착합니다.
Please check again the key points of the task we've done in this
다시
training.
한번 체크해 보세요.
So far, we have learned about how to conduct cable pulling and connection. Thank you for your hard work.
수고하셨습니다.